Alright, so like a lot of people who build in Terraria, I do really like that kind of Japanese or Asian style temple build. I've done this for a couple of different designs, from our dojo to a small little kind of floating island, and I think even a large temple. But this one's different. Hey Terraria fans, welcome back to another speed build video. Guys, in this one I am building another, well, Asian or Japanese inspired temple, but I'm doing it with a bit of a twist because this is our mountaintop temple. Now traditionally when I make this kind of a build, I usually focus on the actual building or structure itself and then maybe add a sakura tree or a cherry blossom tree or something of that nature. And yeah, listen, it looks great, but in this one, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So to that end, I went to the snow biome and actually built myself a mountain. The goal here was to focus a little bit on the environment, play with the foreground and the background, and have a decent looking building on top. I also decided to add some cool kind of winding stair things that I actually think add a lot to this build, even though they're quite simple. And on the topic of things that are simple, if you'd like to watch a simpleton like me try to actually put these things together, you can do so live on Twitch. Link is down below. Additionally, if you're enjoying any of the content here on the channel, guys, do feel free to hit the like, the subscribe, or the little dinner bell thingy so you can know when the next video hits the old YouTube universe. Also because it's free and I will love you. Anyways, desperation aside, guys, do stay until the end of this video because I will be covering all of the materials that I used in this build. So if you want to make something similar or make an exact copy, you will be able to do so. Now, with all that out of the way, guys, let's get to the build, shall we?
These my dollars make it hurt.
All right, folks, so with our mountaintop temple build done, I'm going to quickly cover all of the materials like I promised at the beginning of this video. Now, of course, this is going to be a really good place for you to start should you want to make a replica of this or at least something similar. But as always, I do encourage you to pause the video here if you'd like to take a closer look at the materials. And of course, guys, this maybe also helps you if you have a question down the road about a particular block and where I used it. It just gives you a nice kind of cheat sheet to kind of figure that out. But that said, there's really nothing too spectacular or special here. A lot of these blocks are pretty common, at least in my opinion. Now, when it comes to the blocks themselves, guys, we use a lot of stone accent slab, some cloud, of course, some sandstone, and some stone just to really make up a lot of that, well, rocky feel that we've gotten here. I think that was really important for a build like this, make it look like it's really built in and grounded in a mountain. We, of course, use some snow blocks here and there as well. And then we actually added a few of these living ultrablight fire blocks. These are actually in the water. You could use smoke if you want to make the same effect and then paint those negative paint. In my case, I just like this one, paint it white. It's a little bit different. And then, of course, for the roof, we went with our Dynasty shingles, both the red and the blue. So again, nothing special when it comes to the blocks, but where it gets a little bit different here is, of course, with the walls, because there's a couple here that I don't often use, and particularly when it came to the actual mountain itself. Now, I could have added a lot more layering here, but I wanted to just kind of play around with a lot of the stone types. Now, I use craggy stone a lot in my builds, especially for landscaping and floating islands. I just like the way it looks, but here I kind of had to mix a lot of this in, and we went with some worn stone as well as stone wall, which isn't uncommon, hellstone, and some mottled stone. So the mottled stone and the worn stone I don't use very frequently. I am using hellstone a little bit more in my builds. I kind of like the way it looks, a bit of a darker look, and it has a little bit more of a tighter pattern on it, which I do like. Now, there's also a few spots where we use the smooth sandstone. This was just kind of to add a little bit of a brighter color, and that's also typically under the sandstone kind of peaks that you see. Again, you could mix this with kind of anything you like, but having this texture really makes this build kind of stand out and feel a little bit more, well, mountainy. Now, guys, when it comes to paints, we didn't use anything too extravagant, but we went with a lot of gray and white, of course. We also went with some black and some shadow here and there, and again, you'll probably be able to tell where I did that. And then we went with sky blue, some brown, and some deep teal. So not a huge range in terms of the color palette. I really did like adding our sky blue paint to our trees. I just think it gives it a really interesting kind of feel and look. Not something I would traditionally do. Typically, you'd think sakura trees or that kind of thing, but I really think going away from the pink or red here kind of stood out a little bit more to me and kind of blended in a little bit more with the mountain range. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think of the color choice. Maybe I screwed up here, but again, I think it looks pretty good. But yeah, guys, there you go. Nothing really all that special when it comes to the materials. I hope that gives you a little bit more insight into how this whole thing comes together. And of course, if you need to ask any questions related to the materials, feel free to leave a comment down below. All right, so with all that said, guys, let's get on with the rest of the video. Okay, so there's a lot there, but there is our mountaintop temple done. I gotta say, I really love the way this turned out. I have been giving this build quite a bit of thought. I initially thought I was gonna make this in a different biome with a slightly wider, flatter structure, but I really love the way this looks in the end because the mountains with the snow and the foreground and the background, a little bit of that waterfall, the cave, it just all comes together and really, really looks interesting. And while I will say that the actual temple structure is not that dynamic, it does feel like it's substantial in terms of its size because it's at the top of this mountain peak. It's somewhat in the background, so you kind of get a little bit of that feel of how big this would actually be. And part of that illusion is actually created by the mountain itself, but also by having those trees be in the foreground. All that said, there are a few features I'm not so fond of. I think I could have done a little bit more work on texturing the actual stone wall. I used craggy stone wall and didn't really kind of beat it up too much. Maybe could have added some more brick here and there, just break up the texture a little bit. But otherwise, guys, this build is really quite excellent. I just love the way it came out, and I hope that you guys do as well. But if you don't, you can of course let me know in the comments down below, or if you do agree with me and think this is a relatively good build, then let me know in the comments as well. I'm open to all suggestions. And of course, speaking of suggestions from you, the viewer, guys, do feel free to leave me a comment on anything you would like to see me build in the future, because I will take that into consideration, and you never know, I might just pop one video out that is exactly what you asked for. Could be fun. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching until the end of this video. I do hope that you enjoyed it, and as always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We'll see you in the next one.